Kenyon was a staunch proponent of chemical evolution from the 1960s to the 1980s, and his book became a bestseller. His idea was that the chemical properties of amino acids formed chains that led to the first proteins. But just a few years after the publication, Kenyon began to doubt his own theory. The problem was the coordination between the amino acids and the DNA. The genetic information without which the first proteins could not form. Because the amino acid chains did not simply form through the attractive forces between the individual parts, but are determined in the DNA. In the DNA double helix structure, there is a specific information that determines the structure of the protein. The four bases A, C, T, and G appear in DNA. The encoding is done using these letters and through the precise arrangement of the base pairs. In other words, the precise instructions for assembling amino acids into proteins have been encoded here. Our DNA contains the blueprint for everything that makes us who we are. Kenyon himself says that the origin of genetic information was neglected, and that's why he had to thoroughly re-examine his position, leading him to the conclusion that even for the simplest cell, there is not the slightest chance for life to arise through chemical evolution. But let's take a look at how exactly DNA is hidden in the body. A human cell, except for blood cells, has a nucleus. In the nucleus, there are chromosomes. A chromosome consists of two identical parts, the chromatids. Each chromatid consists of a single DNA strand. It is wrapped around so-called histones and thus compactly packed in the cell nucleus. A DNA strand consists of two chains, which is why it is called a double helix. If you were to line up all the DNA strands from a cell nucleus, they would be over 2 meters long. We assume there are 75 trillion cells in the body, which means 75 trillion times 2 meters is 150 billion kilometers. So again, the length of DNA in a human is 150 billion kilometers, which is 1,000 times the distance from the Earth to the Sun. All human DNA consists of 3.2 billion base pairs. If you were to write this information as letters in a single line, the string of letters would stretch from the North Pole to the equator. If you were to fill a pinhead with a diameter of 2 millimeters with DNA, 15 trillion pocketbooks, each with 160 pages of information, would be stored in that pinhead. You really have to let these numbers sink in. But one very special number fascinated the scientists once again. Every 10 base pairs, the strand twists around itself once. If you look at this piece of 10 stacked base pairs, you get a golden rectangle. So, a rectangle in which the sides are in the golden ratio to each other. Bill Gates once said that DNA is like a computer program. Only the programming is more complex than anything we've been able to come up with so far. In addition, programming the connection with the body and the brain is still necessary. During the 19th century, scientists adhered to two fundamental quantities, matter and energy. Something material like physical and chemical processes cannot produce something immaterial. Information is immaterial. This means, first of all, that humans must have a non-material component, because we humans are indeed able to produce information. Evolution requires that information arose spontaneously from matter and energy. This contradicts the principles of information, because information, that is, something immaterial, can only be produced by something immaterial. The question of where the precise biological information in DNA comes from, even before the body is built at all, made Dean Kenyon doubt evolution. The clear code for a human being, the construction manual. How could nature have developed a construction manual step by step? If evolution were a universal process, the universe should be teeming with life, according to the Fermi paradox. As long as there is no solid evidence for the theory of evolution, there will be people like Dean Kenyon who will be interested in the intelligent design approach because of that.